Okay, so after recently completing my PAL NES collection, all complete in box, I decided for imports only and ROM hacks and that sort of thing that the best compromise, well not compromise, but best thing anyway to do is to get a flash card. Luckily, there is an EverdriveN8Pro that just came out this year, which is 100% compatible with everything that's ever come out, including Famicom Disk games, which is fantastic. But given in Australia there's some legal loophole that makes it stupid. If you import a game, it's technically illegal to play it here, so what the hell's the point of importing, say, Final Fantasy? So I went fuck it and decided, let's just get a flash card. But this little video is just going to show how really easy it is to get this thing to work the way it should. So here is my trusty NES. This is what we got here in PAL land. This is a Mattel version, yay, because Mattel distributed it in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And if you own one of these, you know underneath is this little thing here. Now, this is originally on some later models. This is put because you take this off. It's really easy. You just squeeze these two little things here. This comes straight off. On launch models, this is already exposed. But on models 1987 Christmas onwards, there's this little tab, seriously just covering this bit. You just get like a butter knife, seriously, it comes straight back off. The port is still there. So you take that off, and what you do is you get this ENIO expansion connector thing. This allows you to have expansion audio, but I'll demonstrate in a minute what that actually means, because that might just be a bunch of what the heck is that to some people. So I'll leave it as is. It just slots back in place. Now how I have mine set up is I am also a PC gamer as well, but I do both. I do retro gaming and PC gaming, because why the hell can't you do both? You should be able to have everything. If you're a hardcore gamer and you got the money, you should do both. I hate people that do one or the other and go, oh my god, console vs PC. Why don't you just do both? What's wrong with you? So there's my NES there. I'll just leave that there. Now there's your little, power connector. Just plugs in the back. Whoop. And obviously you've got your AV. So I'd like to plug video, whatever cable, doesn't really matter. The color does not seriously matter, as long as you match it on the right side on the other end. It's the audio that I use a splitter that has left and right, so they get both speakers. That plugs in there. Now, I don't use a CRT. I use a PC gaming monitor. These are thousands of dollars, so I don't expect anyone and everyone to be able to afford one of these, but I find this even better for me anyway, because the colors work better for me. The light doesn't kill my eyes. A CRT gives me headaches, and I get terrible eye watering and twitching from CRTs. As much as I love the old look, I just can't look at them for too long anymore, but that's why I use this. But problem is, you've got AV to get to HDMI, so how do you do that? If you're not sure, there's a bunch of them, but the best one that you can get is a RetroTink 2X or equivalent. Just something that has your red, white, yellow cables. Some of them have S-Video, some of them have composite as well. Some even have SCART. But if you want to do SCART, I seriously recommend using an OSSC instead. But as far as the NES is concerned, we're just going to focus on the RetroTink. Now, this can just plug, it uses a micro USB cable for power, and this can just plug straight into any monitor. This monitor, unfortunately, is DisplayPort, not HDMI. It's like above HDMI, so it's a 2K display, right? So it doesn't really matter to me too much, because I feed it into a capture card, because I stream off my NES directly onto Twitch. If you want to check me out, it's /MarioFan3G. That's my Twitch channel. Yay. mindless shilling. And this plugs directly into my PC, which is a big monolith of a tower, because this is my passion, right? Gaming is my thing. So I make no compromises anywhere. And this hooks straight into my screen through Streamlabs OBS as a little input capture thingy, and you just turn it on and it will show a signal. Obviously there's no game in there yet. So leave me a sec, I'll just plug it in. If I can do this with one hand, that would be fantastic. And there's another cable, which I'll just put in there. And to get this to work, people really think this is more difficult than it needs to be. Here is my flash card, which I use for, like I said before, all imports and all that shiraz. So I will open her up. Comes with a little booklet manual, and there's the card. I got the deluxe version, which is the super shiny gold version. It's like 200 bucks in Australia anyway. I don't know what that is in American, but yeah. And it's shiny. It reminds me of the Zelda cartridges, how they're gold. Although I have put them side by side because I do own Zelda in the box. It's not the same, but it's pretty close. Now this cartridge has 3 things on the front. It's got a button on the far left for swapping the disc side on Famicom Disk games. There is an automatic swap, but in case that doesn't work, you can press that, or for development. Trouble is, when you're using a front loader like I am, you actually can't access it when it's in the system. But don't stress too much about that. This is the micro SD slot, which is what you're going to be using unless you're a developer. If you are a developer, you'll be using the micro USB port, which you can use to plug directly into your PC to load a file on the fly using your computer. Now, people get so intimidated by these and go, oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing. How do you get one that's not preloaded? I'm too confused. Oh no, it's seriously not that hard. You just go to Google and you Google your flashcard's name and you Google the OS and you ask for a download, and you just go to the website and you download it. And then people go, well, what about games? I can't tell you where to find them, but seriously, repeat the exact same step I just told you. Just Google it. It's not hard. You'll be in 2 minutes, it'll be done. All you have to do is get a tiny little micro SD card, the same one you use in your phone. Like, this isn't rocket science, right? And you just plug it into however you want to. Some of them, if your PC has it, or just use an SD card slot, or even just use a USB like I do. And you just put it in, because it came with, you just put it into whatever SD reader you want. Put it straight in. I can't do this with one hand. Give me a sec. You just put it in, and this converts it to a USB. You just plug it in. It's like using a USB stick. It ain't hard. And then all you have to do is go to wherever the hell you put your stuff, and you just drag and drop. That is all you do. You seriously just get the OS thing that you Googled for, and any files you Googled for, and just drag and drop. That's it. That's all you do. That's all there is to it. And then you click eject, you're done. You're set. You're ready to go. There's nothing else to it. It's not that complicated. You want a game, you just look for it. This ain't rocket science. If in your territory it's legal, you get your own cartridge, and you can rip the data straight into your PC to use as a backup. This is legal in some territories. Please check with your local laws though. So that's the little micro SD. So your little card, seriously, it's the one you use in cameras, phones, anything these days. And you just slot it in. One tiny thing I do have to whinge about is, because these are so tiny, and this is inherent with all micro SD slots I've ever encountered in my life, is that there is always a tiny ass gap right under the port. And if you're not careful, the card can just slip straight in and it's jiggling around inside here. Luckily I've got a screwdriver, but just take note of that. It's my only problem with micro SD cards at all, is they can slip through the port. But you just pop it in, it's got a little springy, so all you have to do is push it in with like your nail or something, and then voila, it's in. And now it's a functioning cartridge. Whatever you put on there, it will now work. And you just put it in, just like any other game. And I blow this up because it's an input device, right? So you just put this as a projector onto this screen over here, bam, and then you just press boof, and now it's working. So you can load whatever you want that you've put on here, but the example I wanted to show was how our usual games, like Zelda's probably the best example. We all know what Zelda normally sounds like when you boot it, right? It sounds like that, yeah? So the boot time's lightning fast, by the way. That was like, what, a second? But that's what Zelda normally sounds like, right? So if you push, you can actually choose your own hotkeys and that sort of thing, but it's a 2-button combination that you can use to bring up the menu. Now I've hooked up the controllers, give me a sec. So you just push your 2-button combination, it brings you to the front menu. So there's the Famicom Disk System version, and there are English patches, which is so fantastic about the community, is that they've translated so many things, and you just go bam. The Famicom Disk System has an extra sound channel. But you won't be able to hear it because I don't have the expansion thingy plugged in. So there's my completed save file in all its glory, showing that I've done, you know, first quest. But give me a sec. There's so many features on this thing, but what I want to look at is the audio. This is what this little thingy here is for, is this expansion audio thing I was talking about before. But to demonstrate a bit more clearly what the hell I'm going on about, I'll just turn off the auto disc swap, because the disc version of Zelda would normally have you load the game and then ask you to take the floppy disk out of the Famicom Disk System, flip it over, and then it would load the game. But because we're using our card, you can either push the button on the front of the cartridge, which, like I said, you can't actually access when it's in, or just select auto swap. But I've turned it off so that you can hear the menu. Like, we know what Zelda title's meant to sound like, right? But there's a sound channel missing. You'll know what I mean when I put it in a sec. Because the expansion audio is missing. But you'll know what I mean. As soon as I plug that in, you will hear the difference. So that's without the expansion board plugged in. Okay, so I'll turn that off. All right, and I'll unplug this. Unplug it. Unplug it. Unplug it and unplug it. Okay. Now, I learnt this the hard way. Never ever flip your NES with a cartridge in it. So, you just flip her upside down, take this off, and you get one of these. It's called an ENIO EXP connector. You don't have to know what you're doing. You seriously don't. There's no modification whatsoever to your system. You never have to open this system up. If you have a launch model, this port will already be exposed. And you have it so it's sitting like this. And you make sure this little white connector is on the left. The only issue I have is that these two connectors here, they're not quite straight. So it might take a little force and a little bit of trial and error to try and get this to connect. Like the teeth, they don't quite like you. Like they're just not quite aligned. So it's something that was never told to me in any YouTube video or anything like that, is that it is a little bit stubborn and it takes, like I said, a little bit of trial and error. So give me 2 secs, because it needs 2 hands to do this, because like I said, they're not quite horizontal. They're not, I mean, this is a fan board, right? But it does plug in. You just got to give it a bit of a, yeah, I need 2 hands. So I'll sort of, I don't know, I'll have to put this like here or something. Give me a sec. It's a stubborn little shit, but once you get it, hey, there we go. And you just push it in, make sure, not too hard, just making sure that it's in. Yep. And unless you cut this off, you can't put the thingy back on, but it's fine. It'll still work just the same. So keep your little plasticky thingy wherever you want to keep it. And the way that you know you've installed it properly is if the sound comes out right. And the best test is usually just the Zelda Famicom Disk version. So I'll plug this all back in. Get your little flash card. Yep. And then you just grab the same thing again. Now hear the difference. This is what I mean by expansion audio. That's the difference. Now, if you are a familiar Zelda fan, and you are familiar with what the sound effects and all that should be like, even if you've just played the original, right? The most noticeable thing is probably the sound. A couple of sounds are different, but throwing swords, the sound that bosses make, even selecting things just sounds a little bit different. Obviously, this is coming out of a PAL system, so I get that it sounds slower, but I've seen so much complaints over the internet that, oh my god, PAL systems don't run NTSC games at all. They just crash, or they're very glitchy, or graphical glitchy. I'm just like, I own a PAL NES, and it works just fine. I grew up with games being slow.